if you're a landlord and now you have your pre-negotiation letter, what are you looking at before you give out that deferment? The length of time left in the lease. Now, what is the worst thing for a landlord if you have 9 years left in the lease? And the answer is losing you. At the same time, we need to make sure we pay the lender. So the deal we're making there is pay the expenses. I got to pay this lender. So I need your PPP loan as much as we can get. I need the utilities. I need to pay this mortgage payment. We're very aware of that good guy guarantee that you could send in, that you could cancel the lease in 90 days notice as long as you paid your rent on time. So if you're a tenant and you have a good guy guarantee, that is your get out of jail free card. And the good guy guarantee, there's two things. Number one, there's some that only require that you paid your rent on time. And there's others that require that, number one, you paid your rent on time, but you also were in compliance with all provisions in the lease. And that's the one where you come to a law firm like schmegy, and they may find something. So be careful of that. Because you do not have to mitigate damages in New York for commercial. You have to, as of June 2019, need to do so for residential, but you do not have to do so for commercial. Therefore, if the tenant leaves, you could close up and not have to rent it to anybody else. However, if a tenant does leave and you can't go after the guarantor or they hide their assets really well, do you really want to go into this new market? Well, let's say the guarantor goes into bankruptcy. Do you really want to go into this new market where unemployment in New York City right now is 27.5%? Think about what we're walking into. Before COVID, our state budget was already going into bankruptcy. And the city budget, forget it. I mean, I don't know who they tax first. The good news about that is they're going to be enforced to incentivize you real estate people to build and hopefully get rid of rent regulation and make programs where you're forced to build and make money so you could pay taxes. How viable is the tenant and the new world performance of tenant prior to March? Number one, how were you before the COVID? Did you pay rent on time? Did you complain? What kind of human being are you? What kind of business are you? If you're in a business of, renting offices temporarily, I don't know how many people are going to be risking that right now. Next, the rent paid and the rent the landlord would get in the new market. That's what I just said before, and it's scary. The landlords do not want to have new tenants if they don't have to. And by the way, read your leases. If you have a valid self-help clause, and there's many articles on self-help, at least 10 on my website, please read them, because if you have self-help in your leases, you don't have to go to court. You can use them. But if you don't have that and you have to go to court right now and the court's broken, and even in state Supreme Court, it's going to go slow, you may want to have the tenant with you rather than the tenant that you have to go get, especially since it may take forever to evict them. The chances the tenant will go into bankruptcy. That is a really good reason to negotiate with the tenant. Because if the tenant goes into bankruptcy, they may be in there a long time before the bankruptcy is over. And number two, right now it's very hard to show a space. And once you're in bankruptcy, it's going to be a long time before you get them out. So these are reasons to negotiate.